Breaking bad news. Yet another short lecture in this series of communication skills in healthcare. Breaking bad news deserve a separate attention because breaking bad news is a very skillful, very sensitive, and I would say labor intensive process to act. Even experienced person might find it difficult to break bad news. It's not because there's a technical difficulty, because it's involved with a lot of emotions. Your own emotions can cause serious hindrance in the process. As much as you need to engage with the patient's emotions, you should not get disturbed with those emotions in the process of delivering a bad news. So you need to experience it, you need to practice it, and you have to learn how to do it. And not only that, what you learn in the process of breaking bad news is something that you should adapt to your life. That is very important. Because of the importance as well as the sensitive nature of this exercise, educationists have developed a number of tools for this process. Now you can see SPIKES is the commonest model that we use, and then there is what is called grieving, PLIE, ABCD, and breaks. So all the models are there for you to practice, but I can see a similarity in all those models, and all those models will adapt the same thing that we do in our Calgary Cambridge model that we are following throughout this program. And we have an initiating the session, and then we engage in a gathering information phase, and then you enter the sharing information and closure. So they are all same. If you look at SPIKES, you think of a setting that is parallel to the setting, the environment and the emotional attunement with the patient's or the client's requirements. And the P is there for the perceptions of the client as well as the perception of the information giver as well. And then this I is a bit of a difficult thing, or rather misunderstood thing, but it has a relevance here. Invitation is there for you expect an invitation from your client. You get engaged in a conversation, explore the perceptions. In the process, the client will invite you to tell the story. Doctor, please tell me what is happening. So that is the invitation, and that's a genuine invitation that indicates that your client is ready to listen to you. And then K stands for the knowledge, where you give the information, and E is handling emotions. The same thing you can see E here ending, and E here encourage and validate emotions, and like that. So all the models are using the same, but we will be talking more about SPIKES. Breaking bad news, SPIKES. Now S stands for setting environment and mood, where you need to have a very confidential, noiseless, calm setting. Try to achieve as much as possible, and then adapt the mood, attune to the patient's emotions. Don't go smiling, shouting to the patient who is grieving, who is upset, who is worried. Get into the same mood as much as possible before starting the discussion. And then you should explore the perception. Start with patient's perception. What does he know? What is aware about? What does he want? What are the expectations? And know about the patient. And then in the process of this conversation, it will be inevitable, it is very natural for the patient to invite you. And that invitation should come from the patient. It should be a natural invitation. Doctor, please tell me, what is happening, doctor? So that's the sort of tone and voice that you'll hear. And then give the knowledge. Now that is the most important and the critical point that we are going to describe here. We'll come to that in the next slide. And then invariably, as you are breaking a bad news, it's bound to create more emotions. And then having done that, you need to share that empathy, understanding and emotions. At the end, you need to express your strategy and then discuss about the summary of rest of the management. Setting environment and mood is very important in breaking bad news. As I have said earlier, environment should be quiet, calm, not noisy. There should not be any harsh things happening around. Maybe arguments, discussions, not particularly suitable for an emotional mood like this. And then you need to ensure that your mood is attuned with the patient's mood as much as possible. Now say you can't be happy and jovial mood and excited and shouting and talking, singing song just before you start to communicate some bad news, breaking bad news. So therefore you should get attuned to the mood of the patient before breaking the bad news. We need to explore the perceptions. In fact, for you to do that, you should be aware about the background and what is happening in the patient's life and this situation. And then you explore the patient's perspective. What do you know already? What is happening? What else you know? What are your feelings? What are your emotions? And what do you want to know? So in that process of exploration, invariably, patient is going to ask you to break that news. So that is very important for you to do that. So you need to start with patient's perceptions first. Having got the invitation, now you must get ready to break the bad news. This invitation is something that you should wait for. But the moment you get the invitation, you must go to the next step of breaking the bad news. Breaking the bad news, this is the crucial part of it. You transfer the knowledge or share the information with the patient. We discuss about 3 methods: abrupt method, staggering method and wandering method. What is the meaning of abrupt method? Say for example, you have to break a bad news where you are going to say that somebody, say for example, you are talking to a mother who is a teacher, 40-year-old, a child has been diagnosed to have leukemia. So now you want to break the bad news. What you are going to say is, you see, we have done a blood test, we did this bone marrow biopsy, and I have got the report from them, and the report says your child has what is called acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and it's a form of blood cancer. That's abrupt. You just tell the exact information that you want to deliver in clear words, clear sentences, and full stop, and that's it. With that, definitely you will see an emotional reaction from the mother. Now you should be ready to share that emotions, express your empathy, keep silence, attentive silence, and manage it. That will be described in the next slide. And what is staggering method? Staggering method is you tell the same thing, but then you stagger it into 2 or 3 stages. Some people comfortable in using staggering method, but the abrupt method is considered as effective and good method. Staggering method is something like this. Same story I can tell. I hope you understand the purpose of we did the bone marrow biopsy on your child. We were not sure whether it was a plain and simple anemia or a blood cancer. I hope you understand that part. Now then we did the bone marrow biopsy and we want to sort out which one was it. Now we have got the report. The report says your child has what is called acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is a blood cancer. So I staggered it a little bit, but then I expressed it very clearly and gave a full statement. Again, there will be a reaction, and you have to handle that reaction and sort out that. And then the third method is wandering, which is not recommended, and it's not good to just wander around. Say, for example, you might start talking about it. We did a blood test on your child, and the blood test, we were not sure whether it is a anemia or a leukemia or something else. So that is why we are doing various investigations. When we do investigations, we are looking for a cause of the anemia of your child, and then some of the investigation findings might give you a definite result, some may not. And for example, now this bone marrow report, we are expecting a definite result. So therefore, we should be ready to accept the findings given by the bone marrow biopsy. Bone marrow biopsy is almost like a conclusive decision in a problem like this. So we are looking for whether it's anemia due to iron deficiency, or anemia due to some bleeding or something, or whether it is acute some form of blood malignancy. And you see, I must tell you that this bone marrow biopsy indicates that it is like leukemia. So see now, it was not very conclusive decision, and it's not clear, and there is doubt in the parent's mind and whether child has leukemia or not. So therefore, it's better to be abrupt method or staggering method and give a definite word about the diagnosis. Having given the information, it is vital that you express empathy, and then you need to understand emotions. It is invariable that there will be some emotional reaction to the news. So, one of the most important thing is to engage in active silence. The patients will have a lot of things to say. He will talk about his emotions, maybe anger, maybe even his frustration, and he might go on talking with some allegations and self-blaming and things like that. I think your reaction should be more of active silence rather than proposing remedies and actions. Finally, you have to think of strategies, how to manage, to overcome problems, and what to do. And the patient is most of the time is confused at this stage. Maybe that you cannot come into conclusions. Probably what you need to do is to offer whatever the support that you can offer. But then you cannot avoid this conversation, the discussion about strategic approach. And at the end, like any other situation, you need to summarize and then end the conversation with a summary and contract. And then probably you need to give your telephone number, your support service, and then make sure that you are keeping in touch with the patient. Don't leave a patient alone soon after breaking bad news. In fact, you should have thought about how this patient is going to go home, how he's going to spend the night or spend the rest of the day, with whom he's going to spend the day after breaking the bad news. So the breaking bad news should have another component at the time of planning, right from the beginning. Breaking bad news is always linked with grief, and it is good for us to be aware about various stages of grief of patients, because you may be dealing with them at different stages. At the onset, there's a stage called shock, where initial paralysis at hearing the bad news, and at times they do not accept, denial, trying to avoid the inevitable. And then there will be an expression of anger sometimes. They are frustrated, and outpouring of bottled up emotions. And then there's a stage of bargaining. They are seeking in vain for a very way out. So they are not accepting, and they are finding some excuses, some way out. And then you can recognize a stage of depression, and that happens when they finally realize inevitable situation that they have to face. And they might end up in testing, seeking realistic solutions, and then they might go to a stage of acceptance, finally finding the way forward. So they can pass through very many stages of grief, and I advise you to read on this material, and that will be an interesting thing to do. That is the end of the lecture on breaking bad news. So I invite you to go to the section on questions. There are several questions for you to try, and do that before going to the next lecture. Thank you.